Hey, good afternoon, Prescott. It's a beautiful day, 91 degrees in beautiful downtown Prescott at 500 Henry Street. Scott, am I right at 91 degrees?
It is 91 degrees
Yeah,
currently.
that's what it said in my car. That's a pretty good guess. What's any rain in the forecast?
Chance for some sprinkles tonight, but as the week goes by, the odds are increasing for monsoons.
There you go. I saw Wednesday and Thursday, even in Phoenix, you get a little weather, so that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
We need it. So, hey, it's going to be a great show. Today, we've got Mike Kimmel. Hello, Mike.
Hey, good afternoon.
Thanks for coming in to bail me out and ask good questions, and because you're the nonprofit wizard in town.
That's my
Or
official
guru.
title now,
Is that right? Nonprofit wizard?
according to my wife.
There you go. Good. And we got Lisa Mitz. Hi.
Hey, Pat.
Welcome. We've
Thank
been
you.
talking about this for a while.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here today.
You gonna sing us a song?
I didn't bring my guitar. Bummer. I mean, I don't know
should've
if you
told
want
you
a
to bring.
cappella.
We could do some acapella. We
No,
can do.
no.
We can do whatever. So, Mike, what's new in your world? We got a lot of stuff going on with 100 Men and other nonprofits in the community.
We do 100 Men. We're excited because this next month we get to do 100 Men and Prescott Women Who Care. One big, huge event, August 21st, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Prescott Resort.
That is a good thing. And do we know pretty much who the charities are?
Stepping Stones,
Nice.
Prescott Valley, they're definite one, and we'll have a couple other groups that deal with kind of women and families in crisis.
Because that's what we do.
That's what we do in a small town.
And we'll talk a little bit more about 100 Men throughout and the different charities. And, you know, the reason I brought you in, Mike, is because you've been in the nonprofit world for so long. And, you know, I think a lot of people look at nonprofits, they don't know how to give back. You know, I think there's a lot of confusion out there with duplication, quadruplication of some nonprofits. You know, one that's really gotten pretty deep to my heart. And Steve Blair made the announcement last Friday is we're going to do one for Shop with a Cop. And I mean, that's one where, you know, I don't think we give our first responders enough thank you for the stuff they do. You know, our military, you know, protects us across the world and even here locally sometimes or in our stateside stuff. But you know what our first responders do on a daily basis, our police, our fire, our sheriff's department, our hospitals, our nurses, our ambulance drivers, our helicopter pilots, you know, what they do 24/7, the things they see, you know, I mean, just in an 8-hour shift here in Prescott, I listen to my scanner quite a bit, you know, to be able to, you know, go home to your wife after an 8 or 10-hour shift and tune that out and then be able to come back in and do it again the next day is just, it takes a special person.
Oh, I come from a family full of fire, law enforcement, you know, and the wives or kids, they're always wondering, is Dad coming home?
Exactly.
Is the husband coming home today? Is we going to get a call from a hospital? We're going to find out something worse?
Sure. Or what kind of mindset are they going to be in after they just saw, you know, domestic violence calls and DUI calls and the stuff. So, you know, I think we're all, you know, this community is so supportive of our first responders. And we just, you know, every time you see a first responder, you know, a big thank you means so much to them.
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially when we had all the grief in our country where they were going after police and saying this and that and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And to have it here in town, talking to the chief in Peavy, he said the biggest problem is they got too many donuts. Everyone is bringing them donuts. They're helping them out. They're praising them.
Sure.
Not exactly like the big city.
Bobby Tyser had too many donuts. Wait till I catch him. Because we used to ride the school bus together. So, Chief Tyser, if you're listening, I miss bus number 6, but and you have too many donuts, so we'll bring you something healthier sometime. Lisa.
Yes.
2025, Evening
Yes.
of Destiny to help survivors of human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get your heart and passion for human trafficking?
So actually, it started even with a music video back in 2012. We saw a video called Silence is Shameful, and it was revealing of a situation regarding sex trafficking here in the United States. At the end of the music video, there was the statistics that the FBI had that that I think were around 2007, and they were astounding to know that this was going on, not just in, like we talked about, Mike, in other countries, but right here in our backyard in the United States. And so when we saw what was happening, we just felt like we had to do something. I'm actually a survivor, not of trafficking, but of a very violent rape and assault at knife point, and was tied up. And I thank God for the police, because saved my life. And, he went to jail for a little bit. But what was astounding to me is that this man was married with 3 kids, lived, quote, a normal life. And so what we found with trafficking, and this is why we started our foundation, is that a lot of people don't realize it's right here in our backyards with kids and young women and women in their 20s, and that they don't realize they're living these oftentimes double lives, or being trapped in many ways. So we started it because we were introduced through a music video. Music is a great way to reach people, and this is such a heavy subject. And so our very first evening of Destiny was in 2012 in the Seattle area where we lived at that time. And we found that music brings everybody together. So we had law enforcement, we had city officials and other anti-trafficking organizations, and we launched my own video that we had produced that year called Where Has Love Gone? And it was a reenactment of a rescue of a girl here in the United States. That video went on to win the International Film Award for Film Festival in 2015. And it's now at like 450,000 YouTube views. So it really was a way to reach a lot of people. And we've just been doing these ever since and reaching a lot.
Well, I think it's very interesting. A lot of times we see things that say child trafficking or female trafficking or male, but you've hit the human trafficking, which could be all ages. I mean, I can't imagine that traffickers only stay to young children or younger people. What happens when they're in their 60s or 70s? Could there still be trafficking? At the older or at our senior level.
Yeah, very much so. Labor, especially if somebody is hurting financial, and even sex trafficking. It's crazy today, what's happening. But the statistics are actually, I was just reading these from Polaris Project, that we talk about the kids because the kids are so important. But what most people don't realize is over 60% of human trafficking, sex and labor in the United States actually is adults. So it's over age 18. That's a huge number. And if you look at a lot of the arrests that are being made today, too, it's not just kids. It's a lot of women that are 18 and over.
Right. Well, with the economy, with things that are tough, we went through a COVID, there's just so much uncertainty. And, Mike, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Again, you being in the nonprofits, just the uncertainty in our nonprofits, we see, and knock on wood, because, I feel all the nonprofits here are very strong, but nonprofits that, get embezzled, the people that say they want to give back, they want to help so much, and then they go to work or they run these nonprofits, and pretty soon, they're being arrested because they pull the money, or they take the money, or they spend it on other things, or employees are doing it. And that's just, I think that's where people want to do good, but they get very nervous about giving back anymore in this modernization world.
Oh, you're 100%. I mean, who would expect it in a little town like this, to have nonprofits? But people are good at whatever they do, helping, people coming out of trafficking, or helping family, or helping, drug recovery. Doesn't mean they're good business people.
Right.
And that whole business side, you got to be super careful, more careful than a regular business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think time makes a big, somebody who's been around for a while with a board and trustworthy, and time is always a good proof.
Well, and I think how do you screen your boards? And I think that's a tough thing. I think you put a group of people that want to do a good thing, on the surface, just like you said, this gentleman had a wife and 3 kids, but he also had a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in boards, people have the right intentions, but we don't know what their past was. And that may be something that that may be our new career path, Mike, is we screen board members for different charities and just do, I don't know if it's do a background, but it's asking, how do we get good board members? How do we make sure the money is going through the right? I think that's why you and I both really love 100 Men, is because the money comes in. You've screened, because you're the screener for 100 Men for nonprofits, so we know the money is going to legitimate organizations.
Oh yeah, 100%. And on boards, you don't want to give anyone too much responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, it's just like baseball, the minor leagues, right? You don't go straight to the majors. You kind of go up single A, double A. You're taking a look at someone. You're saying, you pitch really good, but not against right-handers.
Right.
So we're going to leave you down a little longer. And it's the same thing with a board. You never want to throw someone right into a major power, and you never want to have a one-person board.
Right.
A multiple of wise men, is what it makes for a board. For 100 Men, we have a big board.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of other things in town, there's big boards, and you can kind of keep an eye on each other. You can't just say, trust me. You want multiple people, like 100 Men, multiple people look at money when it comes in.
Sure.
It's not just Pat sitting in the corner.
Right. Well, and that's the input. Well, we're going to take a break. The phone lines are open, 928-541-1016. We've got Lisa Mitz of the Lisa Mitz Band, and she's got the Helping Survivor of Human Trafficking Evening of Destiny coming up, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Lisa when we come back. And we're back with the KYCA PM show. This is Pat Kuykendall, along with Mike Kimmel and Lisa Mitz. And so, Lisa, this show's about you.
Yeah.
Let's what got you? Just tell us about yourself, your
Yeah, for
upbringing,
sure.
and what got you into music, and what got you into the ministry, and just let's hear about you.
Well, basically, I was raised in music as a kid, and then went to college at the University of Florida to become a classical pianist, and then decided after a year of playing in front of juries, I didn't want to do that. So I actually got a degree in broadcasting journalism. I worked for the NBC affiliate in San Francisco, and but I got married right after that, young, and had a bunch of kids, 2 birthed and 2 adopted. And my husband, David, studied acupuncture and natural medicine, so he is a practitioner. And then I put music aside, and it really was actually through our call for this human trafficking thing that I really had a passion. We were living in Israel in 2006 to 2010. We were doing both ministry out there and raising my kids, but I always had this feeling, what if I could go back to my music? I didn't want to leave, like, die with the music in me, as they say. So anyway, it was at that same time we found out about human trafficking, and that's when I was able to work with a very well-known artist who became famous. His name is Alan Stone. He is a very well-known R&B artist, and I did my first professional albums with him. He worked 3 records with me, and it was really evolved. So my music really began to take off at that time, and we were doing these concerts, and I was starting to perform, and then leading worship. And then in 2019, I met my producer now, Brandon B., who is incredible. He will be here, in fact, for this concert. We've brought him in every year now for 5 years, and he has worked with some of the most well-known Christian artists and other people, too, that you would know. But, yeah, so it's just evolved, and, you know, I kind of joke about it because at this point in my life when a lot of people are thinking, well, it's time to slow down. I mean, I'm telling you what, Pat, I'm like performing, you know, in a lot of places and releasing new records. I just released a new single 2 weeks ago called Humble Road, and it's taken off. It's really been highlighted on a lot of Spotify playlists. So that's just, I live a very busy life, and my kids thankfully are all grown, and I did all that, and so now I have a little bit more freedom to pursue these passions of my heart. But helping kids and helping young women and women like, you know, what I went through is really my biggest passion, and that's what I do through my music a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for her. Probably 3 years ago, I think we went to the concert. My wife said, "Oh, I'm not going to another fundraiser." I said, "No, she's really good and talented." She was blown away. She said, "Wow, that was a good deal at the Elk. Saw you there."
Yeah, I remember. And actually, we outgrew the Elks, so now we're at the Yavapai College Performing Arts Center. And well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I try to get better and better, but you know, it's really, as an independent artist today, it's really hard. For me, I feel like being an artist with a mission and a cause is really what it's about. I am not in this. I am way too past that to try to be famous. That's not what I do. In fact, if I could make a little money, that would really be a good goal. But I really do this. It is like the ministry of my heart. So my music, it ties in with this mission. And so the concerts, Pat, have been a great way, like Mike knows, to reach people. So I cannot tell you how many people have come up to me after these concerts and they like hug me and they say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea," because most people still do not want to know what's happening with trafficking, even after the Sound of Freedom and all these things, right? We had Mira Sorvino here last year as our VIP speaker. People still don't want to know these facts, these statistics, right? But they will come to a concert. They may not want to go to another fundraiser, but if they'll buy a $40, $50 ticket and go, all right, well, at least I'm going to hear, you know, professional band and good music and speakers. Kwang is, you know, every year he's such a dear friend. He comes and speaks and just gives in that way. We have many others. This year we have the Patriot Barbie, Lindsey Graham, but, you know, people afterwards, they are so blown away and they go, "I had absolutely no idea. And thank you so much for inviting me." Or, you know, sometimes I push people.
Hey, Lisa, what's your goal for the ministry for the next 2, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate that question. So right now we have our aftercare program that opened up in this last year. We have an office that was out of a generous $100,000 matching fund donation. Our goal now for the next year is to open up or be donated a home or enough money to purchase a transition home for women 18 and over. Our restorative aftercare outpatient program is open for all ages. We see We see clients that have come out of either sex trafficking, sexual violence, assault, situations like that, or abuse, molestation. We deal with trauma release, so we have a program that includes acupuncture, nutritional supplementation, counseling, cognitive function development techniques. Jen Best is a great person with that. So, yeah, so we have both current goals, financial goals to be able to continue that program, which we are doing really well with, but our long term in the next year is to have this home for women 18 and over, because we want to do like a 2-year restorative program, like you're well aware with, to be able to help these women not go back to the life, but I hate calling it that because it's no life really, but to be able to have a healthy life and empower them with all kinds of things from job preparation and interviews and how to dress in a good way, how to cook healthy, how to shop healthy, self-defense classes, all kinds of things where they can feel empowered. We also do through our aftercare program, what I do is music and art therapy also, which is a huge piece. How I got healed from the trauma I went through for so many years was music. That's a big part of why I did my music. So, yeah.
Wow. So, the therapy, the mental health, which we
Yes.
talk about in so many different areas. It's not just with military or police or fire. It's mental health is in day-to-day folks who have been in the trafficking world. And I think it just from what I'm hearing is it takes it all out of you. You almost
Yes.
have to restart as an infant after being trafficked to get your mind back together, to get your physical strength, to get your willpower, to get your your goal to drive on back.
Yeah, well, there is a very real thing of trauma gets trapped in even the muscles. Trauma gets trapped not just in the heart and the emotions, and anxiety and fear manifest. Like I had a client yesterday and she was shaking, and I remember that stage. I remember that very much. And so that's why we try to take the focus off, replace the memories of the trauma with something creative. So something like, for example, if somebody's self-harming, which is very common, instead of trying to constantly scratch or rub their wrists, we make a bracelet. We make a special hope bracelet for each wrist, and we encourage them that those are their anchors when they feel that, or we encourage, like what I do is to help write their thoughts and their fears, and teach them guitar. We were able to give a guitar to one of our clients and empower them with lessons. And these are the kinds of things where they're able to take that trauma and apply it creatively, along with the natural therapies that acupuncture and all these other things have proven to help with. But that's a big part of our program.
Yeah, we're going to take another break. The phone lines are open, 928-541-1016, and we'll be right back with the KY. And we're back with the KYCA PM show. This is Pat Kuykendall along with Lisa Mitz and Mike Kimlin. We're talking about the human trafficking, and we heard a little bit about Lisa's past and her giving of music and her talents to help others. But Mike, you were talking during the break about, suicide, and that's something that is, very, very real part, not only in human trafficking, but just in general with mental health awareness and that thing.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, sadly, it's the easy way out, whether it be military, whether it be, sadly, kids or adults. In this town, how many people know there's a drug problem up here? How many people know there's a suicide problem up here? How many people know there's trafficking? This isn't L.A.
Right.
This isn't Las Vegas where they'd expect it. There's a problem here. It happens, and there's a lot of great people up here, but there's some real bad actors.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. And that's why I'm grateful that there are so many great agencies and, nonprofits working in this field to help together.
Yeah, it's neat in our town up here. There's some common groups.
Yeah.
There's CCIT, and there's a couple other groups where they actually meet once a month or so, and let's have 10 different groups so everyone can say, hey, here's what we do well, here's what we need help with.
Yeah.
Here's what we really need the city or the town to step in on.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a mental health advocacy conference this week here in Prescott, up at Prescott Resort. So, mental health is a very big problem.
Yeah, definitely is. We have Vienna Welch. I don't know if you know her. She is the Juvenile Justice Center Senior Probation Officer, and it's just amazing. We had some of the kids come to our office when we first moved in to help that are on probation, to help with our yard cleanup and getting everything ready. But she's always telling me, it's just she sits on our advisory board, and the mental health challenges of these youth and what we're seeing too, even my husband, what he sees in his practice with adults, not in trafficking or anything, just that challenge today is, it is a very real thing. So it's not something to take lightly. I'm also glad, we kind of mentioned this briefly, that I was able to sit on the Human Trafficking Task Force meeting for Yavapai County, and so thankful for people like, the Sheriff's Office and Police Department, Prescott Valley, and Prescott and everybody that is working together in this field specifically for trafficking, runaways, all of that here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the whole thing is there's so many different organizations. I sit on the advisory board for U.S. Vets, and they're now going to have a footprint out in Prescott Valley, which is big because U.S. Vets has been here 20-something years. The footprint has always been in Prescott.
Right.
How do you expand? A lot of people don't want to take that leap of faith. Agape House is probably the same way. Was they were in a known location, and then they've stepped because people in Prescott Valley or Cottonwood and Yavapai County, we all take care of our own, but we've got to expand. You can't, things that are centered in Prescott may not be able to support the Prescott Valley and the Chino Valley areas.
Oh, you're 100%. And people forget how big our county is. Like 8,100 square miles, twice the size of LA County, with a tiny fraction of the people. And people love living up. That's why all the rehabs came up here. I mean, what a great place to recover.
Yeah.
Sadly that didn't go as expected, but still, you go off in our forest, or you take a hike in our forest, or you go out on the lake. That's a great place to recover and just see, God's creation out there and the peace. The people here are amazing up here. People are shocked when they visit how the average person in town, they want to help. Agape House, is working with Destiny House, and Stepping Stones, and a whole bunch within the community. We all kind of hand people off and try to see who can do it the best.
That's exactly right. We have a caller. Hey, Lynn, welcome to the KYCA PM show. How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. I was calling with regards to people who are depressed and suicidal and maybe even criminal and stuff. It's my experience that a lot of these people have what I would call hypothyroidism, a slow-moving thyroid. And so a lot of times it's chemical imbalance. A lot of times it can be helped with just more iodine.
It's amazing with Spectrum and a number of the agencies up here. They look at both sides. They're going to look at the mental side. They're looking at the physical side. And if it's something they can help, quickly, or something they can help with their medical experience, it's great. We have Yavapai, so many places up here.
too bad they never look at thyroid issues. I'm writing a book. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Hey, can you stay on just for a second, Lynn?
Sure.
I want to learn more about this thyroid issue. I've never heard of that. I've heard a lot about some other mental health, but maybe you can educate us, or maybe Mike
Well,
or Lisa know.
I live with somebody who was, like, I guess can be considered bipolar.
Okay.
So my father was manic depressive. Of course, he had served in World War II, but he was manic depressive, and so I've been around people with this kinds of issues and lived with him. And what I find that's common in these people is they all have slow-moving thyroids. And so a thyroid it's the computer that runs your body. And so something very simple like that can make such a drastic change in people's health.
That's a real interesting piece, Mike.
Yeah. Have you talked with Vicki Johnson at all?
I have.
Okay, great. She knows
Yeah.
all kinds of things that kind of fit into that.
Yeah, my
She
husband
does.
would too.
Yeah, she does. I had a traumatic brain injury 11 years ago, and you would be surprised at how little support you get. So I've been researching my own things to help myself.
And has it worked?
Well, I've learned to walk and talk again.
Wow.
So it's helped me a lot because brain injuries, for some reason, are not considered. Well, if you're over 3 months after your brain injury, nobody's going to be dealing with your problem. They think you've improved the most that you can. But that's not true. And there's a lot of different things. They're having some, research on ibogaine, also for people with traumatic brain injuries and PTSD and such. So there's a lot of things that can be done from a chemical imbalance in the body.
Also, just to share with you, my husband David, I am putting in a plug, but he created a whole kind of acupuncture for brain injury and to test on the brain that has made a huge impact over the years. So it is something also that I just encourage you to consider, or just give it to you as an option, because I've seen a lot of people who were not able. He had one patient who was not even able to control bathroom movements and all things like that, or walk, and he helped them tremendously. So there's all kinds of natural ways to heal that.
There is a lot. I just feel it's sad when the thyroid, which is your computer, is so untapped as far as a way to solve a lot of basic issues.
Right.
I just think it's unfortunate. So you have a lot of kids who have a thyroid problem, and so you'll have a lot of young people who become adolescents, and so your thyroid's really important there, and through pregnancy and through old age and such, and so it's really changing a lot.
Right.
And we could really help young people a lot that were suicidal just by checking their thyroid.
You're right. You're definitely right. Well, Lynn, thanks for calling in. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with the KYCA PM show. Welcome back to the KYCA PM show. This is Pat Kuykendall with Mike Kimmel and Lisa Mitz here talking about human trafficking. And we just had a last caller was talking about thyroids and how that's you're kind of like your battery for your body. You know, very interesting, the different, not only medical or prescription, but how non-prescription can be taken care of to help, the body readjust and get back into things.
Oh, 100%. I mean, God made a great machine in all of us.
Yep.
And we're still just figuring out a little bit of it.
Yep.
But sometimes a little bit of everything, a little medicine, a little therapy, a little time, a little patience.
And a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, you've got some events coming up, and you've got some other things that you wanted to share with us.
Well, I want to share about the Evening of Destiny because it is our biggest event of the year. It's not just our biggest fundraiser, but it's our biggest community event. And it has been awesome here in Prescott. The greatest thing we did, Mike and Pat, was we left Seattle.
No complaints.
I mean, I'm just saying. First of all, the sun is just so great. But secondly, the people here are just amazing and truly. We have witnessed when we first started in 2021, the true secret behind all this is I almost gave up. I said, we have $60,000 in the account. Let's just give it away. That was my thing. I'm like, I'm done. I've done this and we're over. But my husband really heard from God. I really believe that. He prayed and he said, nope, we're going to do one more concert. And I literally, you remember in 2021, we got here in March, April, and things were opening up, but people were still kind of COVID crazy, whatever. Anyway, but I went knocking door to door. I went to dentist's office. I went to chiropractor. I went door to door. I said, would you consider sponsoring? We are doing a benefit concert. And we rented the Mile High Middle School in Prescott. And I was so believing. I pictured we were going to have like it full, 800, it seats like 900 people. And we had 120 that showed up. And I almost cried, but, people said to me, I'll never forget, in fact, Lori Bennett, shout out to Lori, a sweet friend. She said, don't give up. This is the beginning. You're going to do it again. I'm like, we're going to do it again? No. And so we did it again the next year at the Elks, and we had 250. And then we did it the next year, and we sold out the Elks. And now last year, we're in the Yavapai College, and we are believing this year we are going to fill the Yavapai College Theater. It seats almost 1,100. And so I just want to thank the community here because they have really come alongside. People are bringing people. We have Lindsey Graham as our highlight speaker. We have Dominique Rose-Sepowitz, who is the leading expert in trafficking here in Arizona. She's ASU professor, PhD. Quang Nguyen. We have Tom Boltz, commander of the sheriff's office. Lacey Lyons is the mother of Destiny, who she spoke last year, big picture of Destiny, who sadly passed away. Fentanyl. She was trafficked also in Florida, human trafficking, but she came back to Arizona here, and her boyfriend hooked her up, and she ended up dying with one pill of fentanyl, which fentanyl and trafficking go hand in hand together because almost always girls that are being sex trafficked are also hooked on drugs. That's just the way it goes. And we've actually helped many young women. I helped a family 2 years ago, same thing. Daughter was hooked on fentanyl. Trafficking, we able to coordinate a rescue. So all these things go together, but our event is the biggest one that we do every year, and we would just love for everybody to get their tickets. Evening of Destiny. All the proceeds are going to our future transition home. Thanks to so many amazing sponsors, our costs are covered right now, but if you'll bring people and get your tickets, we're believing it's a sellout. Plus, you want to hear my producer, Brandon B., and a full band. He's incredible. You get your money's worth, that's for sure.
Well, and I think that's what brings the community together is, again, we have so many experts. We've got a great sheriff's department. We've got a great police departments, in all the quad cities. And, the reality, and I don't want this show to be a gloom and doom.
No.
But, there are problems. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back for our final segment. And, we'll elaborate on that a little bit, and then we'll go through some final. But we'll be right back with the KYCA PM show. And we're back with the final segment of the KYCA PM show. And we were, again, this show was not to ruin your afternoon, but a lot of times we got to talk reality.
Yeah.
We can sugarcoat things and make everything like Disneyland, because we're all blessed to live here. But there are issues, but again, it's a great thing that we have organizations. It's probably not my forte to go out and work with the mental health. I mean, I've worked with a lot of veterans, but it's not my profession. I'm not a subject matter expert, but we have so many people in this town that have the passion, that are able to give back. Again, we were talking about our first responders, the things they deal with every day, our clinics. We talk about substance abuse, we talk about suicide, we talk about mental health. The experts are here. All we got to do is ask for help. Don't give up.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the whole town was kind of forged on that, going back 1800s, even the 19, how the whole town came together, smaller than now, came together to support them.
Right.
And it's kind of in people's blood when they move up here.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many retired folks up here, and, they use all those skills, whether they're musicians or doctors or firefighters. And you get a second and a third career once you think you're done.
Sure, but just again the spectrums and the things that get called out in the middle of the night to go help that person in crisis. And I don't think we understand that it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, AI doesn't work for that. It's kind of a human to human thing. It's nice to think that Google could solve that, or that someone would just go on some.
We're
AI.
in trouble if it does.
Yes,
Let's just say
that's
that.
true. So,
yeah.
Lisa,
Yeah.
I'm going to give the rest of the show to you. Just talk.
Well, thank you. Well, one thing I thought about that I think might be good for your audience to know is that a lot of people think that human trafficking is kind of what they saw in the movie, right? And there's a lot of those of us that work in the industry that, like I have for many years, that movie kind of that we all know about, Sound of Freedom, it was good to wake people up, but it really was not the reality. And those of us that are in the reality of what it is understand that, first of all, trafficking is not just about going and kidnapping kids. Trafficking is happening in your backyards right here in Yavapai County, whether that is a girl girl who's a runaway, whether that is a woman who is addicted to drugs and doesn't know how to feed her kids, whether that's down in Phoenix where there's a high school girl who wants a prom dress and is willing to sell herself in that way, whether somebody roofied her or whatever and took pictures. And these are very real issues. Sadly, most trafficking in the United States happens familial, where it's somebody who is familiar or a family member, which is a horrifying thing to realize. But that is exactly what is happening here in the U.S. And many of those are not just kids. They are, like I said, young women. And so it's really important to understand that we are not living in the movies. We are living like reality. And the other thing that is important to know is that not everybody that gets rescued lives happily ever after. There is real life. We've been talking about mental health issues, trauma, things that get trapped, physical, emotional things that have to be dealt with in order to be restored. That's why we're called Destiny House Restoration Center. So, we've helped support many different rescues and things like that, or I've helped place girls in different programs, whether that's the Dream Center in Phoenix or that Safe House Project in North Carolina or Ain Getty Refuge up in Washington. Our vision is to have that here specifically for this targeted population. I love also, though, that we can work with Agape House and places like that, where if we can't house somebody, we can try to help. That's what we're looking at. But it's important that people understand that trafficking takes various different forms today. They can even look like they're living a normal, healthy life, but they're living a double life, really.
Hey, Lisa, how can they find out more about the Evening of Destiny?
So, thank you. The Evening of Destiny, you can go to Yavapai College Performing Arts Center and just scroll down. You'll see it right there, Evening of Destiny 2025. Click on Get Your Tickets. You can also go to destinyhouserc.org, and that is our website. All the information about our program is there. You can buy tickets through there. Yeah, you can call our office too at 928-514-9965.
That is so good. Tell us a little more about your band. Let's leave
on a musical note.
There you go.
Well, like I was saying, so typically in the past 4 years, I've had local musicians of my band play, but my producer, Brandon B., who is one of the top producers in the U.S., really, and all over Italy, everywhere, but he is bringing in his own professional musicians. They're coming from 4 different cities in Washington State, touring band. Many of them are worship leaders too. They are just top of the line, incredible musicians. And I'm also excited to have Alicia Previn, violinist here, joining me again this year. A couple of awesome backup singers too, local musicians here. So it's going to be a phenomenal, it is really going to be a professional concert like you're coming to hear. And if you've ever been in that college performing arts center, the acoustics are like off the charts, incredible. So yeah, it's going to be a show. The first hour is the music, first 55 minutes, and then we'll have our speakers and an opportunity to give. So it's going to be fantastic.
That is great. So Lisa, Mike, thanks for coming on today.
Always great to be with you.
Thank you
We'll
so
come on more
much.
often. And I'm going to close the show today on Saturday, or join us on Friday afternoon, the Steve Blair, the Good Old Boy Show. We're going to be just talking and taking calls, in remembrance of Rollie Simmons. Rollie Simmons was a former mayor, one of the best, a true gentleman, a love of Prescott, that was beyond the norm. And his services are going to be held on Saturday, July 19th at 2 p.m. at the American Lutheran Church at 1805 Scott Drive, with a reception to follow at the Rollie P. Simmons Community Center at 1280 East Rosser. But this is a great opportunity to come out and see his wife, his family, pay your respects. But Rollie really had a love for Prescott and was a great man. So thanks for listening to the KYCA PM show, and we'll be back in a month, and listen in on Friday to the Steve Blair and Pat Kuykendall Good Old Boy Show.